I would never do what a bunch of other review channels are probably going to do like a funny little short spoof of the lights out concept before the review. That, never gonna do that type of thing. Hello once again, watchers of Good Movies. My name is Nick Pell and this is once again coming from my apartment. Now today we're going to be talking about the film Lights Out. Now this is the most recent horror film that I've seen in theaters. It's the most recent one to come out. It stars Teresa Palmer, who I believe I last saw in The Choice, which was not my favorite film of the year. Check out the review if you want to see my thoughts. And she actually does really, really good in this movie. The idea is that her mother is a little bit nutso, and she was talking to this evil demon spirit thing. You don't really know what it is, and it is haunting this family. It is scaring her little brother. He comes to get her help, and she has her own stuff going on. She's about 20, he's about 10, and so it's an interesting dynamic, and a lot of this film has to deal with the family dynamic of this film, because you see that there is a history there, and it's something which is dealt with, and is an essential part of this plot line, because you don't really know what is essentially driving this creature to come forth. You know that has something to do with the mother's emotional state, and that's something which is brought out a lot in this movie. The concept I thought was actually very, very cool, because it's built on this really short 10-minute spoof that came out on YouTube I don't know how long ago, a couple years back, and it was made into this movie. And the idea is that there's this creature in the darkness. When you shut the lights, it appears. When you turn it on, it's not there anymore. And I thought that the idea around that was actually very, very cool, because to my knowledge, it hasn't really been done before, surprisingly. You'd think that like scare of the dark type of stuff would be money for Hollywood at this point. I also like the backstory, the figuring out what this creature actually is, where it came from, its history. I thought that stuff was actually very, very cool. I actually find that stuff the most interesting in horror films when it's done well. When it's done like it was in The Darkness, terrible. When it's done in this movie, actually pretty interesting, because it tells you what you need to know, it shows you what you need to know, does it in about 5 minutes, you're good. I don't really talk about this too terribly often most of the time, but the camera shots in this film were very, very cool. There's a point where it transitions to a different location just by focusing on a picture, zooming out, and you're in a different location. And it also just kind of pans across pictures to kind of show how much time has progressed since the opening, essentially, prologue of this movie. And it's just kind of a cool way to do a storytelling thing, because you can kind of just detect details of the plot just from seeing those images for about 5 seconds. And it's just cool. It's just a cool thing that I noticed. Gabriel Bateman is the little son, kid person in this movie. He does a very, very good job. For a kid actor, he's very, very good. And you don't really see that too often these days, but he did a very, very good job in this movie. Alexander DePersia, he also did very good. He plays the boyfriend. He's not really a throwaway character, surprisingly. I enjoyed his character. I don't think he had that much to do, per se, but he was a good character, and it wasn't just bait for the spirit to just take down and add emotional trauma to the whole situation. And I really enjoyed that fact about him. A lot of these characters, they were smart. They do smart things to keep away from this spirit, because they know that eventually it needs to be in the dark to attack them. They provide light. They fill up the house with light, and it makes sense. And they do just really smart things to combat this creature and research it and all these types of things. It made me happy, because it was something similar to The Conjuring 2, where you have the whole family just running out of the house when you realize, oh hey, there's an evil spirit in this place, we need to leave. And they do that. I really like that fact about they had smart characters. This one, pretty much the same thing. With horror films, they can sometimes overuse the music, just make really loud scenes to build up tension, and that's just nothing. I thought the use of music in this movie was actually very well done. It was used for key scenes, but then when it needed to be quiet, I feel like just complete silence builds tension more than anything else, when you're just listening for little sounds of what a creature could be making, and you just don't know what's going to appear next. That I thought was actually very, very well done, and I really enjoyed that fact. It added a lot of the tension to the movie, and there is tension throughout this whole thing. There's very few times where there's a point without tension, where you don't think that something creepy or scary is going to happen. It is a PG-13 movie, so it doesn't have a ton of scares, or at least the level of scares as it maybe could have if it was R, but it does keep a good level of tension for the most part in this movie. I also thought that it ended with a very good twist. I liked how it ended, it concluded well, and I didn't really have any issues with that part of the movie. The only thing that I really did have issue with is that it doesn't really do anything new, and let me elaborate on that a little bit. Yes, it takes the concept of like, oh hey, something's scary in the dark, don't turn off the lights or else you're gonna get killed. So it takes that concept, but it applies it to the idea of a horror film that we already have. It doesn't really do anything terribly new. We have an evil spirit haunting a family, and they have to figure out a way to combat it. It's just in a new element, and they have to use new ways to combat it. It can control the lights, it can basically turn off the lights if it wants to, and that's how it attacks people. And so it has that new concept, but it is generally the same type of thing that we've seen before. It has the same type of general concept as The Darkness does, as The Conjuring does, as just all these haunting movies do. So in that respect, I didn't think it really did anything terribly different in regards to how the story played out. The characters were just smarter, the concept was in and of itself unique, but just in general it didn't really do anything terribly new, and that was what disappointed me for the most part in this movie. Guys, I will say, lights out, definitely a good time. I did have fun watching it. Again, tension throughout the whole time. My heart rate was going pretty fast for the good chunk of the film, and I thought it was a fun time, fun movie. Definitely check it out. One of the better horror films of the year so far, and yeah, definitely check it out if you are a horror fan, and I would highly recommend it. But guys, those are just my thoughts on Lights Out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you hate it more than I did? Let me know. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe once again if you so choose. I'd appreciate it immensely. And as always, my people, my name is Nick Pell, and once again, keep on watching.